Okay, welcome back. We're going to be starting chapter 6 today in Joe Campbell's Primitive Mythology book. This chapter's on shamanism. It's in the section on the mythology of the primitive hunters. And we're just about halfway through the book at this point. See there. We're moving right along. The first section is called The Shaman and the Priest. All right. Among the Indians of North America, two contrasting mythologies appear, according to whether tribes are hunters or planters. Those that are primarily hunters emphasize in their religious life the individual fast for the gaining of visions. The boy of 12 or 13 is left by his father in some lonesome place, with a little fire to keep the beasts away, and there he fasts and prays 4 days or more, until some spiritual visitant comes in dream, in human or animal form, to speak to him and give him power. His later career will be determined by this vision, for his familiar may confer the power to cure people as a shaman, the power to attract and slaughter animals, or the ability to become a warrior. And if the benefits gained are not sufficient for the young man's ambition, he may fast again, as often as he likes. An old Crow Indian named One Blue Bead told of such a fast. When I was a boy, he said, I was poor. I saw war parties come back with leaders in front and having a procession. I used to envy them, and I made up my mind to fast and become like them. When I saw the vision, I got what I had longed for. I killed 8 enemies. If a man has bad luck, he knows that his gift of supernatural power simply is insufficient, while on the other hand, the great shamans and war leaders have acquired power in abundance from their visionary fasts. Perhaps they have chopped off and offered their finger joints. Such offerings were common among the Indians of the plains, on some of whose old hands there remained only fingers and joints enough to enable them to notch an arrow and draw the bow. Among the planting tribes, the Hopi, Zuni, and other Pueblo dwellers, life is organized around the rich and complex ceremonies of their masked gods. These are elaborate rites in which the whole community participates, scheduled according to a religious calendar and conducted by societies of trained priests. As Ruth Benedict observed in her Patterns of Culture, no field of activity competes with ritual for foremost place in their attention. Probably most grown men among the western Pueblos give to it the greater part of their waking life. It requires the memorizing of an amount of word-perfect ritual that our less trained minds find staggering, and the performance of neatly dovetailed ceremonies that are chartered by the calendar and complexly interlock all the different cults and the governing body in endless formal procedure. In such a society, there is little room for individual play. There is a rigid relationship not only of the individual to his fellows, but also of village life to the calendric cycle. For the planters are intensely aware of their dependency upon the gods of the elements. One short period of too much or too little rain at the critical moment, and a whole year of labor results in famine. Whereas for the hunter's luck is a very different thing. We have already read one typical account of an American Indian's quest for his vision in the legend of the origin of maize. The Ojibwe tribe, from whom that version of this widely spread legend was derived, were on a cultural level, when Schoolcraft lived among them, approximately equivalent to that of the Natufians of the archaic Near East, circa 6000 BC. They were a hunting and fighting people of Algonquin stock, and their main body of myths and tales was of a hunting, not a planting tradition. Nevertheless, they had recently acquired from the agricultural peoples of the much more highly developed South the arts of planting, reaping, and preparing maize, which they were now using to supplement their gains from the chase. And with the maize had come the old myth of the wonderful plant dema, which we first encountered among the cannibals of Indonesia and saw as having crossed the Pacific with the cocoa palm. In South America, it has been applied by hundreds of tribes to the various food plants of that richly fruitful continent, and here in North America we have found it again, accommodated not only to the tall green growth and feathered crest of the maize, but also to an alien style of mythological thought, that of the vision. We do not hear in this tale of a great group, the people of the mythological age, but of a single youth, just such a boy as each would be in his own visionary quest, in that great solitude of which our Eskimo shaman, Igjugurjuk, has already told, which can open the mind of a man to all that is hidden to others. The contrast between the two world views may be seen more sharply by comparing the priest and the shaman. The priest is the socially initiated, ceremonially inducted member of a recognized religious organization, where he holds a certain rank and functions as the tenant of an office that was held by others before him, while the shaman is one who, as a consequence of a personal psychological crisis, has gained a certain power of his own. The spiritual visitants who came to him in vision had never been seen before by any other. They were his particular familiars and protectors. The masked gods of the pueblos, on the other hand, the corn gods and the cloud gods, served by societies of strictly organized and very orderly priests, are the well-known patrons of the entire village and have been prayed to and represented in the ceremonial dances since time out of mind. In the origin legend of the Jicarilla Apache Indians of New Mexico, there is an excellent illustration of the capitulation of the style of religiosity represented by the shamanism of a hunting tribe to the greater force of the more stable, socially organized, and maintained priestly order of a planting culture complex. The Apache, like their cousins the Navajo, were a hunting tribe that entered the area of the maize-growing pueblos in the 14th century AD and assimilated with characteristic adaptations much of the local Neolithic ceremonial lore. The myth in question is fundamental to their present concept of the nature and history of the universe, and is clearly of Southern derivation, associated with the rites and social order of a planting culture, and, as we shall see, concerned rather to integrate the individual in a family ordered, well-established communal context, concerned rather to integrate the individual in a firmly ordered, well-established communal context than to release him for the flights of his own wild genius, wheresoever they may lead. In the beginning, we are told, nothing was here where the world now stands. No earth, nothing but darkness, water, and cyclone. There were no people living. Only the Haktsin existed. It was a lonely place. There were no fishes, no living things. But all the Haktsin were here from the beginning. They had the material out of which everything was created. They made the world first, the earth, the underworld, and then they made the sky. They made earth in the form of a living woman and called her mother. They made sky in the form of a man and called him father. He faces downward, the woman faces up. He is our father and the woman is our mother. The Haktsin are the Apache counterparts of the masked gods of the Pueblo villages, personifications of the powers that support the spectacle of nature. The most powerful of their number, Black Hucktzin, the myth continues, made an animal of clay and then spoke to it. "Let me see how you are going to walk on those 4 feet," he said. Then it began to walk. "That's pretty good," said the Hucktzin. "I can use you." And then he said, "But you are all alone. I shall make it so that you shall have others from your body." And then all sorts of animals came from that one body, for Black Hucktzin had power. He could do anything. At that time, all those animals could speak, and they spoke the Ikaria Apache language. The world creator, Black Hucktzin, held out his hand, and a drop of rain fell into the palm. He mixed this with earth, and it became mud. Then he fashioned a bird from the mud. "Let me see how you are going to use those wings to fly," he said. The mud turned into a bird and flew around. "Well, that's just fine," said Black Hucktzin, who enjoyed seeing the difference between this one and the one with 4 legs. "But," he said, "I think you need companions." Then he took the bird and whirled it about rapidly in a clockwise direction. The bird grew dizzy, and, as one does when dizzy, saw many images round about. He saw all kinds of birds there, eagles, hawks, and small birds too. And when he was himself again, there were all those birds really there. And birds love the air, dwell high, and seldom light on the ground, because the drop of water that became the mud out of which the first bird was made fell from the sky. The clockwise whirling image from which the birds of the air were produced suggests those designs on the earliest Samara pottery of the Mesopotamian High Neolithic, circa 4500 to 3500 BC, where the forms of animals and birds emerge from a whirling swastika, and it is surely by no mere accident or parallel development that similar designs, as those in the figures below, occur among the prehistoric North American mound builder remains, or that in the ritual life and symbolism of the present Indians of the Southwest, the Pueblos, Navajo, and Apache, the swastika plays a prominent part. Okay, here are the pictures that Campbell includes here in chapter 6 of the whirling birds from the Mesopotamian High Neolithic. See those there? They kind of look like swastika images. And the caption says, "Designs from Shell Gorget's Spiro Mound, Oklahoma." No, okay, so these are not from Mesopotamia, but the prehistoric North American mound builders. Sorry about that. All right. So this circumstance, however, may supply us not only with additional evidence of a broad cultural diffusion, but also with a clue to the sense of the swastika in the earliest Neolithic art and cult, both in the Old World and in the New. The creator whirled the bird in a clockwise direction, and the result was an emanation of dreamlike forms. But swastikas counterclockwise appear on many Chinese images of the meditating Buddha, and the Buddha, we know, is removing his consciousness from just this field of dreamlike created forms, reuniting it through yogic exercise with that primordial abyss or void from which all springs. Stars, darkness, a lamp, a phantom, dew, a bubble, a dream, a flash of lightning, or a cloud. Thus should one look upon the world. This we read in a celebrated Buddhist text, the Diamond Cutter Sutra, which has had an immense influence on Oriental thought. Now, I'm not going to suggest that there has been any Buddhist influence on Apache mythology. There has not. However, the poignant thought that Calderón, the great Spanish playwright, expressed in his work La vida es sueño, Life is a Dream, and that his contemporary Shakespeare represented when he wrote, "We are such stuff as dreams are made on, and our little life is rounded with a sleep," was a basic theme of Hindu philosophers in the earliest phase of their tradition, and if we may judge from the evidence of certain little figures in yoga posture dating from circa 2000 BC that have been found in the ancient ruins of the Indus Valley, this trance-inducing exercise must already have been developed in the earliest Indian hieratic city-states. One of the best-known forms of the Hindu deity Vishnu shows him sleeping on the coils of the cosmic serpent, floating on the cosmic sea and dreaming the lotus dream of the universe, of which we are all a part. What I am now suggesting, therefore, is that in this Apache legend of the creation of the bird, we have a remote cognate of the Indian forms, which must have proceeded from the same Neolithic stock, and that in both cases the symbol of the swastika represents a process of transformation, the conjuring up in the case of the Haksin, or the conjuring away in the case of the Buddha, of a universe that because of the fleeting nature of its many forms may indeed be compared to the substance of a mirage or of a dream. Well, we'll stop there for now, and next time we'll continue with this section in Chapter 6. I hope you enjoyed it, and thank you for joining me.